Okay, so this is my pitch video, and the topic of my pitch is COVID-19 case data in the US. I thought that this topic would be really interesting because it's important to know case data and share it with citizens and other people so they'll take the virus more seriously. And there is power in numbers and power in the data. I posed several questions related to the topic. The first question that I thought of whenever I looked at the topic COVID-19 case data in the US is, which states have the most cases? And so I created a bar chart, and you can see that I have the states over here and then their cases. So New York has the most cases. They have a staggering amount more than any other state, and New Jersey's next, Massachusetts, California. And just by that, we can kind of make an assumption that because of population, um, the population would mean that there's more cases. So the next question that I posed is, what is the relationship between state population and the cases? So for this visualization, I wanted to compare and look at the relationship of the cases in the population. So I put the case numbers on this axis and the population on the bottom. And we can see from the trend line, there is somewhat of a trend. You do have one state up here, New York, that significantly more cases than the others. Even though their population is less than California, they are experiencing more cases, so they're just an outlier in this visualization. And based on the trend line, the p-value is 0.5, so it's not very statistically significant. And you can just see that because we have this state with a lower population than this, but they have more cases, and the same with New York. So I thought that's interesting because there's not, as far as this data shows, there's not a huge relationship in this data. So the next question I had was about cases and hospitalization. So how does the number of cases compare to the number of people that were hospitalized? And so I just thought a great comparison would be to do a shared axis chart. So I have the state and then cases and the number hospitalized. New York, obviously, we know that they have the most cases. So their cases are a little over 7 million, and about a third is hospitalized. A little over 2 million people have been hospitalized that contracted COVID. New Jersey has about a third of the cases of New York. They have even less that were hospitalized. And so as you look down the chart, you can see some. I think this is interesting. Colorado has fewer cases but more hospitalized than Washington. Washington had 16,000, almost 17,000 had to be hospitalized, and their population was, or their cases were 389,000. And then Colorado has less cases, 288,000, but more had to be hospitalized, 75,000. And then Indiana, Tennessee, North Carolina. I just thought seeing the comparison like this is very interesting, because knowing the number of cases that had to be hospitalized is important, especially when we're talking about hospital beds and how many people we need to prepare for to be hospitalized. That is a huge consideration that we have to take, just so we can make sure that we have everything we need to be prepared to take care of those that are sick. So the next question that I posed, I kind of was building off of the questions. There we go. Okay, this next question that I posed, how does state population compare to the number of cases? I really wanted to be able to see the U.S. And be able to compare states in that way. So we have the population that is represented by the blue. Lighter blue is less of a population, and the darker blue is the higher population. So you see clearly right off the bat, California is the darkest blue. Their population is almost 8 billion people. And then we have Texas, almost 6 billion. New York is up there with over 5 billion in population. And then you have Florida, a little over 4 billion. And then you see a bunch that are lighter. Wyoming, a little over 100 million. Montana, North Dakota, Kentucky, they are the lighter states. So their population is not as high. And so the cases are represented by the red circles. So you would expect to see the biggest circle with the largest population. But that's not the case with this data. We see that New York has the largest circle, the largest number of cases, and California has the smallest. And this visualization is very similar to which U.S. states have the most cases, but this represents, it helps you to better see the geographic location, which I think is very helpful and very useful whenever you're trying to figure out where most of your cases are coming from. Obviously, California, New York, Florida, and Texas, they all have international air travelers coming into those states. And also, they just have a larger population in general, so you would expect them to have more cases. So the last question that I made into a visualization was, how does state population compare to the number hospitalized? So it's very similar to the last visual. We still have population represented by the colors, but instead of cases, we have the number hospitalized. So you can see that New York has the most hospitalized, California does not have near as many hospitalized. New Jersey, the number hospitalized, they have less of a population, but they have 237,000 hospitalized, and California has less than that. So again, a good geographic representation of hospitalization that would just help us to know what to expect in the terms of how to prepare and how to have all the supplies ready that we need. Last slide is my sources and references. I used the COVID-19, just the starter workbook from Tableau.